the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner on this Victory Monday. How you doing, Cody?
James, I'm fantastic. I'm good. I thought this game was going to be a lot worse. I don't know if I can even say that. I thought this game was going to be worse than it was, but it also was as bad as I thought it was going to be, but we won, so it's weird.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it's a wild time. But I'm doing swell, James. How are you doing?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
Kind of like one play at a time, man. One play at a time, too.
Yeah. Too many one play. I don't know. This game was a lot. Okay, we're obviously going to break down the game against the Ravens. We're also going to go over injuries that happened afterwards, a couple roster moves that have happened since then, and then also discuss how our 3 keys to success from last week's show actually impacted the game, if those things we talked about impacted the game. And a reminder for you guys, if you have not yet downloaded the app Pro Sports Fans PSF on your phone or tablet or mobile device, whatever you're using, please go download that. Join the Steelers chat room. You can find that fairly easily. James and I are hosts on that show now, and we will be going live Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. to have kind of like a live interactive discussion with y'all. We call it Midweek Mayhem. Just kind of talking about everything, whether we want to go over film, just talk about, different things. It's just going to be mayhem, which is why it's Midweek Mayhem. So we're excited for that. That starts this Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So, James, how are the inactives looking, or how were the inactives looking before the game?
I'll tell you what, man, we probably could have predicted a bunch of them on Friday's show because that many guys didn't practice on Friday. But James Daniels was out. He still had the groin injury. Pat Freiermuth still had the hamstring injury. Presley Harvin III also still had the hamstring injury. The Marvin Leal was still in concussion protocol. Dan Moore Jr. still had a knee injury. So those guys were all out due to injuries. Mason Rudolph listed as the third quarterback. They keep on showing that on the inactive list, but I think that person's actually allowed to play this year. So yeah, that's like a weird thing, but I think I haven't paid attention to whether or not he's suited up on the sidelines or not, but he was on the inactive list as well. And then running back Godwin Igwebuike. It was my turn to say it. I made Cody say it the last 2 weeks.
Igwebuike. That's close enough. So yeah, those guys were inactive. That's not anything surprising. We kind of expected most of those. So this game happened, James. This game against the Ravens happened, and it was a incredibly slow start, per usual, unfortunately.
Per the usual.
Yeah.
Per the usual. That's what we've been seeing, whether it be play calling, execution, bad combination of both. It's just been very sluggish starts for Pittsburgh recently. Although I'll say that the defense seemed to be a little bit better at the beginning of the game. It seems like a lot of teams have been getting out to fast starts against us.
Yeah, minus that second drive.
Yeah, and not to be discounted the fact that a lot of the Ravens receivers, tight ends, running backs, the whole crew in general really couldn't catch a cold. There were a lot of drop passes in this game.
A ton.
That definitely helped Pittsburgh out.
Yeah. We definitely should have lost that game if Baltimore had caught all the balls. I think it would have been a drastically different game. They for sure would have had at least 7 more points, if not more. But again, Pittsburgh started off very slow. The first drive we had only 16 yards. We wound up punting it away. Second drive was a 3-and-out. The drive after that was, I believe, a 3-and-out as well. No, it wasn't a 3-and-out, but it was we got 1 or 2 first downs and then punted it away again. Didn't really get anything going until late in the second quarter where we were able to get a field goal. But even then, it just felt demoralizing to watch our team that, again, statistically should be putting up points. They have the people, and people say Kenny Pickett isn't him. Kenny Pickett's not the future. Kenny Pickett sucks. Kenny Pickett's had a bad year, sure. But I think we've all come to the conclusion that a large portion of that is, play calling, design plays, where you're able to throw the ball, and maybe even some of it is good coverage. I'll argue that. There were a couple games or a couple of throws this game that everyone was pretty well covered. Like, he didn't have a whole lot of options to throw the ball. So,
and I felt like also in this game, Cody, there were multiple times where the defender got there before the ball and hit the receiver with no call, especially against Washington, the new tight end. Darnell. A couple of times the defender came through him to try to get the ball. Blatant pass interference, and it just wasn't called once against them the entire game. And I felt like it could have easily been called 3 or 4 times in this game.
Yeah.
So he didn't get the benefit of any calls. And I feel like I wouldn't call Kenny's play bad this far. I'd just call it okay.
Yeah.
Fair. A bad quarterback performance is when he's throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. He's completing barely 50% of his passes, looking pathetic out there. He's hitting a lot of these guys in the hands, just either coverage is tight or defensive pass interference not being called, or he's not getting a good enough pocket, but he's still completing more than he's incompleting. He's still got more touchdowns than interceptions. I would say that he's doing okay right now. I definitely wouldn't say he's doing bad, in my opinion. And I felt like this was a better performance than we'd seen in the last few weeks as well out of Kenny. Again, a few of these passes that ended up incomplete easily could have been catches had the defenders been playing within the structure of the rules. They did not get penalized, and then that kind of skews things a little bit. But 18 to 32 isn't awful.
No, it's not bad, and it could definitely be worse. I am just curious. I'm looking up some statistics real quick, just out of curiosity, to kind of see some numbers on the year and kind of get a feel for where we're at. Kenny Pickett does have over 1,000 yards passing on the season. He's just under both Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, but his average per attempt is almost a whole yard lower than Lamar. Again, the biggest thing here for me is the touchdowns and interceptions. He's 5-4. Most other people above. It's still positive. Don't get me wrong. You have freaking CJ Stroud, who's 7 touchdowns to no interceptions. But again, just kind of getting a feel for where he's at. Passer rating 78.8. Completion percentage is a 59.8, which is low compared to everyone else in that situation. Everyone else is above 60 in the top, I don't know, 25 quarterbacks in the league. Even Josh Dobbs is 65% throwing for whoever the heck he's playing for now. I can't even remember.
The Cardinals.
Yeah, he's starting.
Yeah.
So Kenny Pickett didn't have a bad game by any means. Again, I think that we're seeing a little bit more happen with his play, like with him doing adjustments and doing different things with the ball. But he was 18 of 32 for this game. Not a great completion percentage again. 224 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. That's what we're here for, though. The 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So very important. And on that touchdown play, again, we've talked about the Matt Canada play calling. If you got to see Matt Canada's response or reaction or lack thereof for that play, it's almost like he didn't. I firmly don't think it was his play call. I think he audibled out of it because he saw man-to-man, and he said, if I see 14 man-to-man, the ball's going to him. He did it 3 times that I can think of. Right sideline, left sideline, the right sideline for the touchdown. And George Pickens making plays.
Yeah. And Kenny said in his interview after the game that they had realized that the Ravens had a tendency of, in that down and distance kind of situation, of going cover 0, which means there's no safety help. So it's one-on-one on the outside, and he knows it and he recognized it. And as soon as he saw that that's what he had, that's where he wants to take his shot, and that's where he excels at taking his shot. And I'm glad he's taking those shots, man. He needs to, because that's what's going to open up the rest of the field for everybody else. When we get Deontay Johnson back, which I think there's a decent chance of him being able to come back after the bye week, he's going to be able to really work in that open area underneath that Calvin Austin III and Pickens are going to be able to open up by just going deep. They're going to have to send a safety with him, because when you don't send a safety, that's what happens. You get beat. So I like it. I'm with Cody on this whole Matt Canada play call thing. You see the celebration of every single staffer in that press box except for Matt Canada. He looks like he had no idea what was happening. I think at the very least, if this was Canada's call, the receiver that Kenny threw it to, George Pickens, that was successful for the touchdown, was not the first option and probably not the second option on the play design either. I think that's probably, if it was his call, that's why he was confused as to why he's going deep to that guy. When everybody else is looking at it like, oh, George is open. Hey, touchdown. And he's just like, I said to dump it off to the tight end there.
Yep. Or I called a run up the middle play or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Yep. He's looking at somebody else that's like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage instead of the guy that's 40 yards downfield going for a touchdown.
And all I can think of is processing through what would give him that reaction. And I honestly think, and I'm not saying I'm right, but this is just what I'm thinking. I think he knew that his butt was on the hot seat. I think he knew he was potentially out as the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers and potentially still is. And I think if you send a call down and like people need to understand, like I'm 90% sure Tomlin can hear the play call. And maybe he can't.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. I think Tomlin has the ability to hear everything that's kind of being talked about. And they can change different channels when it's on defense and they're talking to Cole Holcomb or talking to Kenny Pickett, whatever it is. I firmly think that he's like, oh crap, the play that I called didn't run or didn't happen the way I wanted it to, and then we just scored a touchdown. I think he still thinks he's on the way out. That's the only way that facial reaction or lack thereof or whatever it was makes sense in my mind, is he's like, oh, we just scored and it wasn't on something that I called. Like, okay.
Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. You're the first person I've heard to say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That, if that wasn't his call and Tomlin knew it wasn't his call, that might have been the, oh crap, I just lost my job thought.
Yeah.
Kenny just audibled out of my call. It scored a touchdown, and that might have just cost me my job.
Yeah. And he's the way he looks where, Pickens was, he looks at Pickett. I think he's just dumbfounded because he didn't see it. Like I don't know. I don't know what to say or what to do about the whole situation. I really hope that Matt Canada's gone. I'm not going to lie. I think even if we get the same productivity at what we would, at this rate, we're 3-2 now. With a full season, we'd be 9-8. Another 50% season. 500.
10-7 probably.
Yeah, 10-7, whatever it is. That's not enough for me. That's not enough. And that shouldn't be enough for Pittsburgh. They're a valued franchise. They're a historic franchise. They're known for winning. We've been above 500 team for so long, but at this point, with the stats that rack up against Matt Canada, and I'm not trying to make this a bash Matt Canada podcast today. I'm really not. But the fact that we haven't had a 400-yard game, every single other team in the NFL has had at least 4. It's just crazy.
It's a lot, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that Kenny Pickett saw something. Kenny Pickett noticed it. He said it before the game about if I see one-on-one, I'm going to get it to him. And he said it after the game. He was recognizing plays. He's watching film. He's doing his part. I hope to see that continue on. Again, Kenny Pickett, solid game from him, even though he had some miscues early on. I think a couple guys he tried to hit, they weren't on the same page, stuff like that. But again, I think it was an overall good. I think this was one of his better games so far this year.
Yeah, and I think you have to give him credit too for the fact that he doesn't have Deontay Johnson or Pat Freiermuth in this game. How much better does it get with having those two guys? Who Deontay is a former Pro Bowl receiver.
Yep.
Pat Freiermuth, second tight end in NFL history to have 60-plus catches in his first 2 years in the league. This isn't just like two starters on the offense. This is two high-caliber starters that they were missing, and were still able to get some offense together and still make some things happen. Not to mention down your starting left tackle and right guard too.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's significant. And they were able to pull some things together, Moving on to the running game, it wasn't impressive in this game by any means, but it also wasn't devastatingly awful.
Nope.
But they moved the ball. They averaged 3.5 yards a carry on the game. We got to see better out of it, but it seems like it's every other week now. One week, Jalen's the better runner. The next week, Najee's the better runner, and you never know what you're going to get each week. One thing is consistent. Jalen is definitely the better receiver out of the two.
Yes.
But he's also the more fumble prone out of the two.
But
so it's like a real mixed bag right now with these two.
I'll say this about Jalen out of the backfield receiving. I feel like he's noticed less when he does that. I think Najee can't get away with hiding in the crowd on screen plays or this or that.
You're right,
he's massive. Yeah. Jalen Warren, you lose track of him because he's so small.
Yep.
And
And
I
he's
say,
great at not getting tackled in the open field.
yep.
It always takes a second or third guy to get him down.
Even that one run play that he had where he spun off the tackle, like Jalen is running hard and he is gonna get paid by somebody, and I don't know if it's Pittsburgh or not, but he at this point has team. I mean, I guarantee you teams would probably trade us if they were in a running back situation. Most teams are fairly decent on running backs right now, but someone would give up a third or fourth for him at this point with what he's proven.
And if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm not interested in that.
No,
and I'll tell you
I'm
why.
not either.
Because this is Najee's third season. So next year is the fourth and final year of his rookie deal. Is he playing well enough to give him the 5th-year option? Some would say probably not. I mean, that's going to cost you a good $9 or $10 million if you give him that 5th-year option. That's the way those work. So next year could be Najee's last year. And if that's the case, you're giving the money to Jalen, man. He's younger. He's younger and he's more explosive. I think Jalen's working himself into a long-term payday in Pittsburgh as the feature back. And I think he's smart enough to understand that he just needs to bide his time. Also, I would like to say on that 16-yard run that he had, shout out to George Pickens as he pancaked the corner opposite him and then came back and picked off the safety.
Isn't it the one he almost got flagged for like unnecessary roughness?
Maybe, I'm not sure. I know he was flexing afterwards, so it's possible. But yeah, George not only had an extremely good game as a receiver, he had a great game as a blocker, and then he had one end around for 16 yards too.
Yep.
So also a good game as a runner. And it's nice just to see another guy that's able to do these jet sweeps and end arounds with success and show some ability to hit the crease, find the open area, and turn it downfield like Calvin Austin can. So now that you got two guys that can do that, you can start alternating who's going in jet motion and really keep people on their toes.
Yeah. On the receiving end, last week we talked about how poorly the receiving was. Stats were along the lines of nobody had plays.
Anything.
Nothing.
I mean, there was backs.
Yeah, it was horrible. George Pickens, 6 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. It's right, man. George had himself one heck of a game. So you can't really underestimate how much of an impact it is when your marquee, your number one dude has that kind of impact on a game, man. So just incredible performance from George. Averaging 21 yards of reception is absolutely incredible, man. So hats off to him. He worked his butt off for it. He won the one-on-one opportunities, and he showed that the corners there can't cover him. That's great for them in the next matchup, man, because then they're going to come into it and say, who do we put our top corner on? Is it on George Pickens or Deontay Johnson? Well, you put your number 2 corner on Deontay Johnson, he's going to have a really good game. I'll tell you that right now. And then if Calvin Austin III is actually healthy, because realistically, he got that head injury in the first quarter and then missed a lot of the rest of the game, didn't come back until like late third, early fourth.
Yep.
So you were running without him as well for a good portion of this game. If you've got all 3 of them healthy on the next matchup, you really might be able to open up the skies and really start passing the ball quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just love the fact that we got the ball spread out this week. Allen Robinson had a good game, 5 receptions, 29 yards. We'll take that. Connor Hayward, 3 for 23. Najee had 1 for 3. But again, the big thing here for me personally is Kenny's ability to just find the open guy, at least especially late in this game. He did a phenomenal job of not forcing passes. And even when you could say he forced the ones to George Pickens, but they were still like back shoulder throws where he, like the one was over the top where only he could get it. They were really, really good throws. And I was very proud and happy to see that kind of like progression from last week where he just felt off. And I think it's confidence. He's building confidence back up.
Mm-hmm.
So
important, man. You got to have it. These guys have to feel good about it when they go out there on the field. So Now they're going to get to go into a bye week thinking about it. Real quick, and I don't know if this is the right place to mention it or if in the special team section is the right place to mention it, but tight end Rodney Williams, man. Yep. What a game. Not only does he recover the blocked punt and almost get it in the end zone for a touchdown. Very, very close. When Gunnar Olszewski fumbled that ball, who was the guy that tracked down the guy that recovered it and kept him out of the end zone? That was Rodney Williams, man. So incredible A-plus effort from this basically fourth string tight end on special teams. Yep. This is something we talked about going into the game. That is, if we knew he got elevated for the game, and we said this guy was really good on special teams in the preseason. Was he good as a tight end? Yes. But he was really good on special teams. Man, he got an A+ from me on special teams in this week's game.
Yeah. On the offensive line, if we want to go to that aspect real quick, I thought it was some of the better blocking we've seen this year. I don't want to say it was phenomenal, but Broderick Jones, I thought played a phenomenal game. And then I thought Herbig Herbig didn't come in looking like a slump or like he got bullied or anything. He held his own.
No. Herbig was fine.
And again, the sacks that we did give up, which I think was 4 or 5, maybe, I'm not sure. I can probably find out here. 1, 2, 3. So 3 sacks. I felt like a large portion of those were coverage sacks. I mean, Kenny just didn't have anywhere to get the ball to on those few plays.
Yeah.
So I overall was satisfied with how the offensive line played. And there's one thing that bugged me, James, and you might feel the same way, might not. There were a couple times where they walked away from a running back after he ran the ball. Block form, and then, the play's over, let's go back to the line. Help your players up. Like,
especially running back.
Especially running backs. I remember when teams stopped doing that for Big Ben, and who was it? Ramon Foster got involved and was like, this is ridiculous. Like, if your quarterback gets sacked, don't just look around and feel stupid or whatever. Help your quarterback up. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and it was Kevin Dotson that ended up being the one that took pride in that, picking him up.
Yep.
Ironically so.
I want to see more of that moving forward. I don't have anything else about the offensive line unless you do.
No, just briefly, I thought that Broderick really represented himself pretty well. Not a extreme test for him, True. I would say. But that was kind of the whole point of not letting him start the first 3 weeks. They weren't going to do that. And I don't know if they would even let him start in this game if it wasn't for Dan Moore going down.
Yep.
I think the plan was probably to transition to him after the bye. I think that when Dan Moore is healthy from the knee injury, we'll probably still have Broderick Jones out there, and that's what I want to see.
Yep.
It's time for him to continue. He earned it. He waited, and we saw enough. And let's be real, man. When they ran to the left, there was some success because him and Darnell Washington can move people, man.
Yes, they absolutely can. Defensive side of the ball. Let's talk the guys up front. First off and foremost, I really thought Montravius Adams had a quiet good game. I felt like he had some. Maybe you disagree. The few plays that I saw, I felt like he actually had good push through the line, and he wasn't getting bullied or beat off the ball. I'm not saying he had great pursuit lines or anything, but he wasn't getting beat to the point where they had gaping holes for touchdowns. I don't know who got beat. Somebody got beat really bad on the 1 touchdown run from Justin Hill, but I wasn't able to see who that was. Thinking back to it now.
Yeah, I don't recall offhand who got beat on that one. But I'm with you. I think that Adams had himself a decent game. Keanu Benton, again, represented himself very well, this time getting the start on the defensive line, which is excellent. Now, this is basically in Cam Hayward's spot. So red defensive end / defensive tackle, they're calling it. But, yeah, nice game out of Benton, really showing his growing strength. And then the final starting defensive lineman, Larry Ogunjobi, in this game. What tremendous hustle on that play to run down the running back and then strip that ball loose and force the fumble, man. Larry's not putting up the numbers this year.
Nope.
He's got 1 sack in the first 5 games, but that forced fumble really showed some good heart. That buys a couple more weeks for me.
Yeah.
I'll try not to complain about him because that was excellent effort in showing that lead by example. You're the veteran of this defensive line unit. That's what Cam always does every single game is all hard after every single play downfield. Larry showed that by example. You want to see it out of the young guys? Watch the old guys do it because then the young guys are going to do it. So love to see that and great effort there from Larry.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Who picked up that fumble? Was it KZ? It was KZ.
Might have been. I'm not sure.
I'm 90% sure it was KZ, but I was proud of even them. The defense tried to get him back up and run. Like they recognized that he wasn't touched yet or down, and they tried to get up and run. He was tackled immediately, but that's fine. Like the awareness of that and to not just drop the ball or like celebrate was like big for me. I don't know why I'm so scared of that right now. I think I've seen too much with the Chase Claypool and Roosevelt and Nick celebrations before we should have been celebrating. Let's talk about the meat of our defense, I'll call it, the linebackers. First off, Landon Roberts had a phenomenal game.
Best game he's had yet. I feel like they put him in the right position though. Right?
They did.
You put him in there on rundowns and let him do his thing against the run. Don't put him out there on pass plays. He's just not good at it. So let him go be a thumper. That's where he's best.
Yeah. There were was he the one that made sure to get Lamar Jackson down when TJ took out the running back? I don't know if that was him or who that was.
Quan got that sack.
You're right. Yeah.
Yep. Quan got that sack. Yep. And speaking of linebackers that had a nice game, let's just stay in the middle linebacker room, man, because Quan Alexander was all over the place.
Yep.
And a week after getting just absolutely abused by running back screens and tight end screens over and over and over, Quan blew him up.
Oh, the way he picked that one screen up too. Oh, yeah.
Just that's what you want to see, man. So this is beautiful. We're starting to see progression in the right way. Are you always going to be able to use these guys in the right situation? You're going to guess wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up in situations where Landon Roberts is trying to cover Darren Waller or some crazy thing like that. It's going to happen. But if you're able to try to get them in the right positions, using Landon in your base, use Quan in the nickel, let these guys do what they're best at, you're getting good results that way. You know, even Cole Holcomb was highly involved in this game, and he contributed as well. 9 tackles in the game for Cole. That's a pretty serious output. Same with Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Again, they both had 9
team tackles.
Yep.
So Minkah on his way to 150 tackles this season. The way he's going, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's very crazy. We're bouncing around between secondary
and outside boys.
The outside boys, outside linebackers.
Yeah,
Alex Highsmith.
Let's talk about these outside linebackers.
Alex Highsmith, outside of I think he just over pursued down on the 1 touchdown run and the running back was able to run right between him and the left guard or left tackle, excuse me. Alex Highsmith, phenomenal game. He had a sack. TJ Watt had 2 sacks. He's on pace to still, I think, break the record right now. I don't know. I'm not going to say he's going to break.
He's got 8 in 5 games, so it would be over. Yeah.
Yeah. Quan Alexander had a sack to go back to him as well, which was, I think that was a run play, but I don't know. I think they gave it to him as a sack. It wasn't a designed run. I get it.
No. TJ almost had him in the backfield, and he started running forward, and Quan got him before he could get to the line of scrimmage. Okay. So, yeah, it might have kind of looked like a run, but it was definitely a pass play where he was scrambling out of it.
Yeah.
Attempting to anyway.
Highsmith had the sack fumble.
Yeah, let's not undersell that strip sack from Alex, man, because he just seems to have this knack for in key situations stepping up and getting that strip sack. And I thought we were going to see another TJ Watt touchdown, man. It looked like it was going to be some deja vu happening again of him scrambling into the end zone. Go ahead.
Let's talk about this for a second. What was this move by Lamar Jackson? He tried to smack him in the hand or something when TJ Watt was going to, I don't know. TJ Watt, I wish TJ Watt would have ran him into the ground. That would have been so fun to see.
Yeah, he'd have just been fined for it, probably.
Whatever.
Yeah.
He's already going to get fined for taking his helmet off on the field. It's fine. On that,
if he doesn't get fined for the punch.
That's true. He did punch a dude in the face, and then he took his helmet off on the last play.
He was clearly trying to punch the ball loose, which he has been fined for previously, but he's fine with paying the fine. He totally missed and hit the dude in the chin on the one play.
It hurt. I guarantee you it hurt TJ more than it hurt the other dude, so it's fine. Don't fine him for that.
Yeah, those chin guards are really, really thick, hard plastic, so he was fine. Trust me.
Yeah. Secondary.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is with game on the line. Our outside linebackers once again just came through in the clutch, and it was the last two possessions too.
It's like when they know they have to do it. It's like a different gear gets engaged.
Yep.
Gotta love these young guys. Speaking of young guys, let's talk secondary for a hot second. Put yourself in this situation, okay, James? I'm gonna talk about this audience if you're listening, watching, however you're taking this information in. Picture this for a second. You are a rookie cornerback who your father was a phenomenal all-time player for a certain team. That certain team drafts you 32nd overall. We all know who I'm talking about. I'm still not going to name the name yet. You watch your team struggle for the first few games of the season. You have now a chance to get the start late in the game because another guy keeps getting burned. We won't say names there, even though we talked about it earlier. Wallace. And so now you have this opportunity and you're excited and your team's getting the ball back. You're watching this punt return and boom, fumble. The fourth string tight end makes a good tackle. They have the ball. They're going to try it. The other team's going to try and score to go up three scores at that point. I think it's two. Or maybe it was just to go up in general.
No, they would have gotten back in the lead. Yeah. Pittsburgh was in the lead at the time.
And you get the call and you get the one-on-one man coverage against Odell Beckham Jr., OBJ, the man, the myth, the legend, the one-hand catcher, all this bull crap, the hype, whatever. And, that fade gets thrown your way, and it's a don't get me wrong, it's a shit ball. But
it was not the greatest thrown ball, but
you get the frickin' pick, man. Joey Porter Jr. man got me hyped up this game for one play only. That's fine. Great play.
Yeah, but he got an increased amount of snaps in this play. For the first time, it wasn't just in dime defense that he was playing. He was playing in some base and some nickel as well. And he's earned it, man. And he showed it there in a crucial situation where, they started with the ball in like the 15 for crying out loud. They're trying to punch it in for a touchdown. And Joey says, man. And then I love how he went to the sideline, and this is his first career interception. And what does he do? He hands the ball to Mike Tomlin. He says, "Here you go, coach. I got it back for you." I love it. I love it, man. I hope to God they start him coming out of the bye.
I do too. There was, I don't know if it was an accurate quote or not, but there was something said that he had something to say to OBJ after this interception that said something about go be a family man or something. Now, I don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's right, but someone said, he was keeping up with the tradition of his father, trash talking players. The only reason that I don't believe that, quite frankly, is because I think well, I'm not going to say that. I think OBJ, knowing who he is, would have reacted to that and there would have been some kind of scuffle. But I am curious if he said anything to OBJ or whatever. But again, great play for Joey Porter Jr., his first career NFL interception that it was not in preseason, to clarify. He had one in preseason.
Yeah.
Great play for him. Was super happy. Huge moment for him, for sure. So, yeah.
And we've been talking all season long about how corners have struggled. Levi Wallace has had his struggles. Pat Peterson, good at times, struggling at other times.
Yep.
We needed to see something, and he's the only one that could do it. Like, we kind of know what we have in James Pierre already. He's that back of the roster, outside corner that you can't put inside and slot. Joey has the potential to be a number one corner. That's why you draft him at 32nd overall. And I'm so proud and happy for the young man to get that opportunity. Do you know what cornerback rated out number one in pass coverage in the entire NFL according to Pro Football Focus from this last weekend, Cody?
Joey Porter Jr.
Joey Porter Jr. over a 90%. They grade him like 91 point something, man. Highest rated corner in the NFL after this last season. Just on this last weekend, that is.
We take that. We take that here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we need it, man. Now let's get Corey Trice back.
Yeah, please. We obviously talked about Minkah Fitzpatrick again leading the team in tackles. He had 9 this game, along with Cole Holcomb. Got super involved. I was just happy there was some time, like Patrick Peterson had a good breakup that could have easily been a big play to go back for a second. TJ Watt had a good breakup on a pass that he knocked down at the line of scrimmage.
He had 2 over on the game.
Yeah, 2 pass defended. Joey Porter had 1 on top of the interception. And then I think Cole Holcomb had 1. Levi Wallace had 1, even though, again, Levi Wallace got torched for the most part today. A huge thank you to Zay Flowers and the receiving core of the Ravens. They didn't catch a couple balls. Zay Flowers fell a couple times. It was a good time. It was a great time. Nelson Aguilar dropped a touchdown in the end zone. So, although we got the win, I still, the personal thank you out to those guys who did not catch the ball when they probably should have. But overall, good game. And then DeMonte KZ, speaking of, secondary linebacker or secondary and safeties, he had that fumble recovery, which was huge.
Yeah.
So he was involved. A lot of stuff that went right late in the game for Pittsburgh.
Yep. Yeah. Let's move on to the special teams units. And specifically, I'm going to say we already talked about the tight end and what an awesome job Rodney Williams game. Yeah. I felt like Chris Boswell again coming through in the clutch, didn't miss a kick again.
Pause for president.
I've been trying not to say it, but he's been awesome so far this season. I'm not going to say how many made versus missed. I'm just going to say look it up yourself if you're not aware of it. He's having a very nice season so far.
Good news is he can't miss next weekend. He can't miss next weekend.
He can't miss next weekend. It's not an option. Yeah, with that bye week coming up, that's not an option. So, and Brad Wing, I felt like represented himself well as also. So I don't think we have anything to complain about from the special teams units.
No, we do. Kick return,
well, yeah,
punt return,
one guy,
punt return.
The same guy who is at this point. Like, I don't know if I should go off on this, if you should go.
Please do. I go off on enough people. This is all you.
Okay. This is my turn. Gunnar Olszewski is not rosterable. I don't care about his effort blocking as a wide receiver. He's small. He doesn't have breakaway speed. He doesn't ever show you anything as a return man, or he is not in Pittsburgh. But one thing he has very consistently done as a return man for Pittsburgh is fumble the doggone ball. And it's just not acceptable, man. It is not acceptable. We bench people for that.
Oh, hi.
I don't want him as my emergency punt return man if he's going to fumble it every time he does it. Put Desmond King in there. Put Minkah back there. I don't care. Anyone other than Gunnar at this point, I really hope that with the changes that we keep on hearing about, one of them is sacking up and saying this guy isn't good enough to be on the roster because he's just not, man. Bring back Des Fitzpatrick and let him try and return kicks if need be. And I know why they put him out there. It was because Calvin Austin III got into concussion protocol, and you're not going to march him back out there when you're already wondering whether concussion to possibly take another big hit on a punt return. You're not doing that. I get that. But we need a better plan B because this is a really bad plan B. Not like a good value one that you get at the grocery store. Like this is a bad plan B as a return man.
It's a bad plan B. That is correct. So with that being said, that kind of wraps up the game. Again, Pittsburgh won late. No, it doesn't wrap up the game. Excuse me, because I'm going to go off on something real quick. James, you're with me on this. We've already talked about it a little bit. I think that the play calling on one of the last drives was absolutely horrendous and horrible. And it was basically saying, I'm too scared. And this even makes more sense to me that he already thinks he's losing his job and he's just, or maybe he thought because they're going to win that he doesn't lose his job. So he's playing it safe. When you get the ball back and your defense stands up and performs well, gets you the ball back in a healthy position, you're already in field goal range and you choose to kneel the ball 3 times in a row to basically say, here's the ball back. Sure, we're going to kick a field goal that's not 100% certain you're going to make. I understand we have a good kicker, but you're not guaranteed to make that kick. So then you're only up 4 points instead of 7 if you miss, and then you're only up a touchdown and an extra point if you even make it, and then still giving the ball back to the team. The fact that on that first to last drive, we didn't even try to get a first down, we chose to kneel it while they still had timeouts, while it was not going to get the play or the game clock down to 0, and then we had a false start or something. I can't remember what exactly that stopped the clock completely.
He lined up wrong. Of all things,
illegal formation.
He lined up wrong. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like straight cheeks, bro. Those play calls were straight cheeks. Awful. You have to try to run the ball there because all you got to do is get a first down.
Game's
and
over.
It's game over. But it was simple math. They had 2 timeouts. There was over a minute left. The play clock is 48 seconds. You knew that best case scenario, even if you were able to run the entire 48-second play clock off after the third play of kneeling it 3 consecutive times, you're still going to leave them 15 seconds, and that's too much time. Ask the Buffalo Bills. They don't like talking about it. 13 seconds is enough time. So you can't do that. You got to try to run the ball to at least run a couple extra seconds off the clock per play. Even if you don't get the first down, you're going to take 3 or 4 seconds off per play instead of only taking 1 second off per play. Now you're going to leave them with like 4 seconds at the end of it if you don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it just, you got to at least try in that situation. I'm 100% with Cody on this. I did not like the kneel downs there. As soon as they started doing it, I was saying the math doesn't work, man.
No,
it doesn't work. You got to try to run here.
Yeah, it was horrible. The one thing I'll say as we enter the bye week, before we talk about injuries and a few other things real quick, going into the bye week, Pittsburgh is in 3rd place somehow in the AFC. Chiefs are in 1st, Dolphins are in 2nd, and then the Steelers. There's a handful of 3-2 teams. We are the team with the best divisional record, so we are 3-2. We take that here. Thank you, Cleveland. Thank you, Baltimore. We will continue moving forward. Injuries, James. You want to talk injuries real quick?
Yeah, injuries. We lucked out and didn't have any major ones. Finger early in the game, was able to continue playing and get 2 sacks later on as he went on. Calvin Austin III went into concussion protocol, was evaluated for one, I should say, not protocol, was evaluated for a concussion early in the game. He cleared. He did not get one in the game. Now, sometimes when this happens, symptoms creep up on Monday or Tuesday. So I would say we'll let you know later on in the week when we do our next show whether or not it looks like anything did creep up, because they'll start talking about that in the injury report. So we'll see. And then Larry Ogunjobi had a stinger early in the game, but was able to continue and come back in the game. So I like where Pittsburgh's at in the injury situation, and we're going to learn a lot more in the next week or so. But I think there's a real possibility that we're going to see Deontay Johnson back, Anthony McFarland back, and maybe even Cam Hayward as well.
Maybe Pat Freiermuth.
And Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah. Yeah, excited to get those guys back. It could be huge. Today, Pittsburgh did sign a fullback, Jack Coletto, to the practice squad, and they also released a fullback, Xander Horvath, and then they also released punter Brad Wing. Now, that is a sad day for Brad Wing, but a happy day for Pittsburgh Steelers fans and Presley Harvin III. That means he's probably going to be healthy enough to come back and play after the bye week. But Brad Wing, thank you for your services, sir, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We will see you on the next one. So, for sure.
Yep. Don't be surprised if they bring him back again for insurance.
No, absolutely not.
They like to do that as the season goes on. They like to have a punter on the practice squad. Also, notice that they released 2 guys, but only signed 1. That, to me, means that we've got a move coming up here. We'll see. They don't have to do anything right away, but if there's somebody that looks like they're ready to come off of the injured reserve, you've already got the corresponding move on the practice squad, and then you can just bump somebody down from the 53 back down. Yep. So we'll see. Could easily be a demotion, like say maybe the Rodney Williams might go right back down to the practice squad. I could see that happening very easily.
Yep.
I would much rather see just a straight up termination of Gunnar Olszewski. That would really make me happy personally. Yep. But yeah, we'll see. We're not done. We got lots to tell you guys about in the future episodes here. So next week is bye week. That does not mean we're not recording. we're still going to give you a show Friday. It's probably going to be an abbreviated one. So it's a good time for you to submit any questions if you have any, because we'll have time to talk about it. There's not going to be as much to talk about.
Yeah. And we'll be talking more a little bit about how our first show does on the Pro Sports Fans app. Make sure you download that. Join us on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will be on there live. I think we'll be live actually right at 7. I was debating on early or not, but I think that's only for games. We have to start a little early. So again, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, like, and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe and ring the bell. It's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.